What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode 15. The episode is called The Royal Rumble, and it's a continuation of where episode 14 left off. Funny thing is that there are two moments that happen in this episode that continuity-wise from the last episode don't make any sense. One relating to the last episode, one relating to this episode itself. There's a part that doesn't make any sense, and that's because I don't know if the Japanese show did this as well. I don't remember right now, but there is a continuity moment that doesn't make much sense. But for this show, we'll get into that fairly early. Besides that, I wanted to start off with this review. I wanted to say this much right now. It was a really good episode. It was actually probably one of the better episodes they've had in a little while. And what happens is that the episode basically shows what happened in the previous episode where Vieira ended up shooting Julian when he was gigantified, and then he retreated, and then in the meantime, she tried to retreat, and Galvanox called for some attacks to be shot at the Lion ship, which led to it crashing down. Thing is that when she leaves her ship, apparently part of the anti-gravity crystal that powers her ship ends up breaking. Because of this, she's not able to power her ship and retreat back to her planet. So what happens is that she ends up going to look for the Rangers to see if they can help her out. Somehow this leads into a pin being it leads into the episode going to the base where we see Mick and Redbot working on fixing all their their power stars and their weapons so that they work again, because as you might remember last episode, their weapons were damaged to the point that they were extremely weak and they weren't able to really do as much as they hoped to do in battle against Julian. So following this, the Rangers do show up after the weapons have been fixed and everything, and what happens is that Calvin makes note that there's a pin on Haley's bag, and when she goes to grab it, it suddenly starts to glow and it starts to feel weird and tingly or whatever, and then she just drops it onto the ground. Suddenly Princess Vieira shows up again. Don't really know why a pin would even be there. We never had any context showing exactly how it got there in the first place. It could have been thrown there, it could have been put there in the previous episode. There's no way of knowing. They didn't really give any clue as to how that happened. That's an example of something that's kind of weird that was left out. It probably should have been explained a little bit better. I don't know. It doesn't matter that much overall. It just would have been nice to actually explain how she even got that pin there in the first place. But that wasn't the continuity point that I was mentioning before. We'll get to that very, very soon. So anyway, she ends up showing up. She ends up mentioning how her ship ended up crashing down, and that the anti-gravity crystal that powers her ship isn't working, and that she needs help getting another source of energy to power her ship. Thing is that the Rangers want to help her, and they ask Mick, since he's like a technical engineer or whatever, if he could help them out and create something to power her ship. Thing is that he doesn't want to help her at all because she is the princess of the Lion Galaxy, which is his home planet, and about 20 years prior, 100 people from his planet, including himself and his parents, were made prisoner to Galvanox, and he feels like he can't forgive her for her family for putting him as a prisoner on Galvanox's ship. So he doesn't initially trust her. Thing is that he, she explains to him, and the thing is that she also says, first of all, that she understands where he's coming from, that it's hard to really trust someone who did something like that to your family and to you. And the thing is that he hasn't seen his parents in 20 years. This is also important to note because we didn't know whether or not where he came from, and the fact that they are connected to each other makes a lot of sense. Also because in the past episode, we ended up seeing Princess Vieira shapeshift, which is something that Mick could do as well. So that basically kind of implies why she was able to do it, because they're both from the same place, which is smart, and I actually like that there's that connection and that there's some relationship there, even if it's not the nicest. But anyway, what happens is that she basically explains how, she's sorry for what her family did, and I came to this planet looking to conquer and destroy the Earth, but you Rangers taught me being how to be good and how to be a friend rather than to be destructive and cause trouble. And I am forever thankful to you, and I really want to help you out. And the thing is that Mick is like, all right, I'll give you a chance. Is that Mick eventually admits to giving Fiera a chance and working to form a new power, which this power ends up being Zord power. He actually thinks that he can use Zord power, but the only problem is that they have very, very little ninja steel. But they do have enough to do what they need to do with it. It's just after that they need to find another way to get more, and currently they don't have anything. So what happens is that in the meantime, Mick and Redbot start working on the power star for the Lion ship. And in the meantime, the Rangers do their own thing. What happens is that apparently Victor and Monty stumble upon a boulder that's floating in the air because of an anti-gravity crystal. Now, the reason why... Now, this is one of the continuity issues that's for the American show, not the Japanese show. You might remember the last episode, they were in jail. And yet this is supposed to be a continuation, meaning that unless they were in jail for a very, very, very short amount of time, it doesn't make much sense for them to be out of it now. Most likely that is the case, but as far as continuity goes from the last episode, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, what happens is that they notice how it manages to lift up a huge boulder, and then if you remove the crystal, it manages to lose the ability. Like, the boulder stops being able to float in there without any support. And what happens is that they realize that maybe they could take advantage of that, and Victor thinks that he could use this to his advantage to get his last trophy that he wants, because he wants to get 50 trophies because he's had so many other ones over time. So what happens is that he ends up promoting himself and about all these different lifting the heaviest thing in the world. And then in the meantime, we also hear on the ship, Julian's ship, not Julian's ship, Galvanox's ship, that Madame Odious is going to create an upgrade for Julian so that she can ensure that Julian won't lose in battle against the Rangers. And so that is something that happens as well, because they really want to prove it. And also, Galvanos tells Julian that once you're done with that, go scout the Lion ship and destroy it. And then Julian even suggests that he's going to destroy the Rangers as well. So anyway, what happens is that while this is going on, eventually there is a distress call that happens in the West Woods, which is where Princess Viera's ship is. So that's when the Rangers have to go and deal with Julian. Julian appears, and he appears with this upgrade. This upgrade is a toolbox arm, which gives him an increased strength and new abilities to shoot out tools and stuff out of his arm. And what happens is the Rangers get into a fight with Julian. They end up also asking Mick if the star has been made or not. And at first it isn't, so they have to keep on fighting. And Julian does some pretty good damage to them. But then at one point, what happens is that finally the star is made, and it turns out to be the Lion Firestar, which when it is thrown into the Ninja Nexus prism, it comes back, but it doesn't come back at Mick, it comes back at Princess Viera's armor. And suddenly a bracelet appears on Brody's arm, where a star device, which has like the Lion Fire, the lion symbol on it. And what happens is that he ends up using it, and this allows him to access Princess Viera's Lion Fire armor, giving him the ability to become the Lion Fire Red Ranger. So at that point, he ends up getting into a fight with Julian, doing all sorts of really cool moves, moving extremely fast, has a lot of power, can even shoot like shurikens out of the wrist changer and shoot them at Drillon, and just in general he seems ridiculously powerful. And what happens is that Viera even mentions how with my Lion Fire armor, this should give the Rangers a fighting chance. And the thing is that Mick basically sees that, like, she actually cares about them, and she's grateful that they're able to use this armor. That, like, it wasn't a problem for her that she doesn't have her armor right now. And he basically says, you really have changed. You really aren't that kind of person. And he ends up showing a sense of trust in her. Anyway, what happens is that they continue to fight, and they end up asking Mick, how is it going with the Lion ship, and regarding the Zord Star. And the thing is that Mick is like, you still have to work on it, and I'm almost there. So what happens is that in the meantime, the Rangers end up using the Elemental Stars, and also what happens is that Levi ends up using his finisher, and then Brody uses his Lion Fire Red finisher attack to destroy Drillon, and then Drillon is gigantified. From there, what happens is that the Lion Fire Zord Star is made, and that is when Brody gets the chance to actually use it, because what happens is that the Lion Fire Zord Star ends up being thrown and goes right into the Lion Fire Zord, powering it up and giving Brody the ability to access it. At that point, what happens is that the Lion Fire Zord ends up getting, when Brody activates the ship, manages to transform it into Lion Fire Megazord, which is the Megazord form of it, which is really cool. And he ends up going into battle against Drillon. He ends up doing lots of really cool attacks using these two big shurikens that are the main weapon of the Lion Fire Megazord, and even combines them for a finishing attack. And then that doesn't finish it, so then it transforms into back into the Lion Fire Zord. Brody ends up being on top of on the outside of the Lion Fire Zord, and does a really amazing finishing move, and then it returns back to the Lion Fire Megazord. At that point, the Rangers rejoice, knowing that they managed to defeat Drillon, and then we end up seeing the Rangers back at the base, where Princess Viera mentions how, she's forever grateful to the Rangers for all that they did for her, and also she basically ends up saying, trying to, forgive herself and her family for what they did to Mick, and she gives him a present, which turns out to be a call from his parents. Yes, we finally get to see what Mick's parents look like, and they end up asking if he is willing to return back to the Lion Galaxy. Thing is that he says, not yet. I still have some things to do with my friends here on Earth, and once I'm done with that, then I will definitely be able to. And they're like, that's completely fine. We weren't expecting you to do it right now. We're just glad to know that you're alive. And basically, just in general, you could tell that both his parents and him are just so happy. And following this, Mick even gives Princess Viera a hug, showing that he truly finally trusts Princess Viera, and he isn't suspicious of her actions anymore, and knows that she's really gonna change things on the Lion Galaxy and make it a better planet, and that she's going, and she even mentions that she's going to do things the way the Rangers do things and rule it in a much more peaceful way. So anyway, she ends up leaving on the Lion ship, basically saying that, anytime that you need the Lion Fire armor and the Lion ship, you can call for it anytime, or if you need me as well, I am more than willing to come. Meaning that she will show up. As far as what I know so far, isn't going to happen probably again until the next season, that she'll show up, but the Lion Fire armor and the Lion ship should probably be showing up later this season. I know the Lion ship definitely will be, but as far as her showing up, I don't think it happens until the next season, which is because I guarantee she'll show up again. Anyway, following this, we end up seeing Victor, do his whole entire lifting weights thing, which he uses the anti-gravity crystal to make it easier. And what happens is that Preston notices that the anti-gravity crystal is on the weight, and as it's being lifted, which is a 2-ton weight, Preston initially wants to say that, Victor's cheating. But the thing is that they realize that they don't want to have it where if they say this, then there could be a lot of questions asked about, like, how would you know, or why is this so, or whatever. And so they instead just wait and watch what happens. So Victor ends up lifting it up above his head, and he's about to win the trophy. But the thing is that rather than putting down the weight, he ends up running and letting go of the weight, and it stays in the air when he goes to grab the trophy. At that point, what happens is that then the judge realizes that he's cheating, and what happens, and following this, the judge ends up removing the anti-gravity crystal, and suddenly what happens is that the weight falls through the ground. Victor and Monty fall into the hole that's made by the weight, and then from there, Victor asks, do I still win the trophy? And then the judge says no. Now, the other element basically that's where the episode ends. The other element that I forgot to mention that happened that was the inaccuracy for the Japanese show, which I forgot to say, was when Drillion battles the Rangers, eventually the toolbox upgrade ends up getting broken in battle, and then he's destroyed, and then when he is gigantified, the toolbox arm is still there. Now, I'm pretty sure that probably is because the Japanese show had it that way, but it is an inaccuracy because in reality he shouldn't have that toolbox arm at all anymore if he got it destroyed when he was small, unless upgrades are something that's transferred over when you are gigantified, which could be the case. If that is the case, then it's not an error. It just seems like a little bit of a lack of continuity right there that should have been taken into consideration, but it wasn't. Anyway, overall, this episode was good. It was nice seeing Mick see his parents, Mick giving Princess Vera a hug, them getting the Lion Fire armor and the Lion Fire Megazord / Zord, and just as a whole, it's really good. I don't believe there will be an episode next week, so be aware that is probably going to be the case. Next week there shouldn't be an episode because it is the week. It's supposed to be the get out and play day or whatever it is. I forget what it's called. It's something where it's all about being outside and stuff rather than having new episodes of shows air. So yeah, there probably won't be an episode next week. Most likely there'll be one in the first week of October, and then there might be one the second week as well, or they'll skip the second week, and then the third and fourth week of October will be episodes. And November should have at least 3 episodes, and then we'll have one in December, and that will be how Ninja Steel ends. As far as things go, this is the last episode that's really story based until episode 19. So just be aware of that. The 19 is the next time we actually have an episode that contributes to the overall plot. But the other one should be good, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing those. So just be aware that there won't be an episode next week, and episode 16 will probably air the first week of October. So I'd love to know your guys' opinions. Did you guys enjoy this episode? What are your thoughts about it? Are you enjoying Power Rangers Ninja Steel? Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Sarah 71, and goodbye, guys.